Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, who is the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, your colleague, the chair of the committee, Devin Nunes, had a press conference today in which he basically said repeatedly, there is nothing to see here. I have been told that there is nothing here. Is he right?
I don't think that any of us on the Intelligence Committee should reach any conclusions about the evidence yet because, frankly, we have heard from no witnesses. We have only started reviewing documents. It's the very beginning of the investigation. So we shouldn't be reaching any conclusions about what we're going to find. And it concerns me that you have the White House talking to the FBI and potentially the CIA and asking them to push back on stories. It's perfectly appropriate for the White House to reach out to Republican or Democratic members of the House, but not on the subject of the investigation. And I don't think that we ought to draw any conclusion before, frankly, we've seen any of the evidence.
Is it irresponsible, in your view, for the chair of the committee to be as categorical as he was today?
Well, I don't think we can be categorical at all, and certainly not on the basis of any private conversations with intel officials. The committee is doing the investigation. The committee has yet to begin its work in earnest. We're still in the document gathering phase, and we need to follow the evidence wherever it leads. We have agreed on a bipartisan basis to a scope of investigation that includes the issue of potential Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. And we can't start that if it's going to be thorough and objective by concluding that there's no there there. First of all, because we don't know that, and second, because the investigation is only getting underway. So I am concerned when I hear statements like that, because this needs to be done on a bipartisan basis, or it's simply not going to have value for the American people.
You said something today about needing the full cooperation of the FBI, which is a big question mark right now. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that we can't become the FBI ourselves as a House committee. We're going to need to know what has the FBI investigated, what leads have they chased down, what information have they obtained, what leads are yet to be investigated, so that we can oversee whether they're doing a thorough job and whether there are other areas they haven't explored that we need to. We won't be able to do that if the FBI comes back and says, we won't talk to you about that. That's a pending matter. That's unsustainable in my view, and thus far, I don't know whether we'll get the full cooperation of the FBI. I've raised this issue with the director, but we're going to need it to be able to do our jobs.
Chairman Nunes invoked the specter of McCarthyism today, basically saying that there was an air similar to McCarthyism hanging around this, and people are being tarred as guilty before they've had an opportunity to defend themselves. He says American citizens, you can't go running around calling them Russian agents. Is there an era of hysteria here? Are people getting out ahead of the facts in a way that's dangerous?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's any comparison here to the McCarthy era. We're conducting, I hope, a thorough investigation. We're not prejudging the conclusions. We shouldn't be. In terms of General Flynn, and I think a lot of his comments went to General Flynn, this is someone who lied to the vice president and caused the vice president to mislead the country. That's a serious business. That's not McCarthyism, in my view, to call him out on it, and what's more, to call out the president, because the president of the United States knew Mike Flynn had misled the vice president, and through that, the entire country. And what concerns me more than anything else about that, the president was okay with that. He was okay with the country being misled until it became public and he was forced to fire Flynn. Well, that says a lot about this president's willingness to tolerate dishonesty in his administration and misleading the public. That ought to be a very substantial concern, and I don't consider that McCarthyism in any way, shape, or form. In fact, in my view, it's quite the opposite.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff, thanks for joining me.